I'm Sarah Rogala, the Director of Marketing with City Different Investments, and I'm going to interview Connor Browne, our Portfolio Manager for Domestic Equity today, to ask about what is happening in the markets. So, what's happening in the markets?
Thanks, Sarah. Great lead-in. Well done.
Thanks.
So we're recording this on Tuesday, January 28th. So over the weekend, there was a lot of news about a new AI model out of China, developed by a company called DeepSeek, that has caused, as of yesterday especially, a big sell-off in the large cap tech names in the US. A lot of the AI-driven names, like NVIDIA and others, saw a big move lower yesterday, based on the release of this AI model.
And so that would be like the Magnificent Seven that you all talk about a lot?
Yep, that's right. The heart of this on the model is that the company claims, and there's going to be a lot more that we find out about the development of the model in the coming months, but the company DeepSeek claims that they've trained their model for just $6 million, which is less than a tenth of what competitive large language models cost to develop by OpenAI or Google or Meta. So a lot of the move in the Magnificent Seven and these largest companies in the US has sort of been driven by this idea that you need to be really big with lots of resources to be competitive in AI, and that AI is going to add a lot of value to the leading companies in that space. And this development potentially questions that fundamental assumption. Got it.
And what does that mean as far as the energy aspect of this as well? Because I know that some of these companies claim that this is going to take an incredible amount of energy. Would that change with this new?
Yeah, potentially. It's a great question, Sarah. Well done. I think there have been a lot of pieces to the AI play. Interesting to remember, we're only just 2 years or so into OpenAI having released their first chatbot. And so one of the drivers in the market has been that we expect an increasing demand for electricity because of how big the data centers will be, how many of NVIDIA's high-end chips will be required to develop the next new large language model. So this potentially puts a lot of that in question. Now, a couple of caveats here. It's illegal for DeepSeek in China to be using NVIDIA's highest end graphics processing chips, the really in demand AI chips. So on the one hand, the story in the market today is that they've developed their model using much cheaper chips, and it looks like that may be credible. There may be ways that they've thought about developing their AI technology that doesn't rely on those high-end chips, which are illegal for them to use. There may be some chance that they
use them anyways.
Were able to use them, and this isn't such a big change after all, but if they did, they wouldn't be allowed to, or they try to hide it anyway. But that'll probably come out. I do think the other thing that's interesting is the Mag 7 have become this huge component of large cap returns in the US, the S&P 500 and others. We believe in a more diversified portfolio, betting on small caps, betting on ex-US investments versus US has been a bad bet for 15 plus years now. We do expect that that'll change at some time. But I like to remind people, OpenAI, which is a leader in AI, came out of nowhere too. So this idea that there are these competitive moats around AI development and that only the largest companies would be able to be competitive in that place is almost disproven by the fact that OpenAI is a leader in the space. And I'd expect more scrappy, smaller companies, China, US-based companies, to come up with new ways to develop these incredible technologies and perhaps challenge some of the forward assumptions on earnings estimates and valuations in the Mag 7.
So if it is what it says it is, it's done it for a lot cheaper, potentially with a lot less energy, but we don't quite know how it happened. My next question is why now? I know there's some discussion about whether or not the announcement yesterday has any kind of political ramifications. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't know.
You heard it here first.
I will say, it's funny that just last week, Elon Musk and Sam Altman of OpenAI were fighting back and forth on this huge announced investment. Oracle was there at the White House. Larry Ellison was there. $500 billion, $500 billion in investment. If what we see holds true at DeepSeek, maybe you don't need nearly as much money, which I think is funny. The other thing that does seem real is that the pace of advancement is increasing dramatically. So the argument about whether we'll get to artificial general intelligence, AGI, which are AIs as smart as humans, has well, it's shifted. So we aren't even coming up with tests anymore that are smart enough to test the most advanced AI systems. And even in the last couple of weeks, it's been ASI, artificial superintelligence, that we're talking about.
Which is even higher.
Much smarter than humans.
That's terrifying.
But then too, like, keep in mind in the real world, like many of us are using AI, but actually not very well, and it doesn't do things like we want it to. Microsoft has totally botched the launch of Copilot, which is the AI-driven component of their Office suite. And I chuckled a little bit last week as we were reading about new agents coming out of OpenAI that can actually act and work on your computers. And on the one hand, I know, on the one hand, we're talking about artificial intelligence curing cancer and maybe being able to book travel for you, but we're still not sure about their ability to book travel. So
it's the same level of importance is what you're saying.
There's a lot left to figure out in the artificial intelligence world over the coming years.
Got it. But it seems like it's been a big shakeup in the markets currently.
That's right. Yeah.
And for more information about this and our other market analysis, you should tune in to our webinar next week.
That's right.
That's why I do marketing, because got to throw the pitch in at the end.